From Montana's news leader, this is the MTN 530 News.
A new governor sworn in as the 67th Montana legislative session gets underway at the state capitol. And tonight, new numbers coming from the Billings Police Department show a massive spike in violent crimes within the last year and throughout the pandemic. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us on your Monday. I'm Janelle Slade. Well, leading our news tonight, a Billings suspect wanted for his alleged role in a hit-and-run fatality over the weekend has reached out to Billings police. Lieutenant Brendan Woolley tells Q2 tonight that the 22-year-old man has contacted authorities but is currently not in custody. And we now know the name of the victim killed. 66-year-old Shelly Bales died Friday night as she tried to cross the 3300 block of Rimrock Road. Yellowstone County Coroner Cliff Mahoney says Bales died instantly from multiple blunt force injuries. Police say the driver fled the scene, but surveillance footage led investigators to look for a maroon 2005 Chevy Silverado with damage to the front end. Lieutenant Woolley says as this investigation continues and charges are pending, authorities are not releasing the suspect's name. And with that, new local crime numbers are staggering. The data shows assaults, altercations, and homicides are all trending up. So here to break it all down is Q2's Andrea Lutz live at City Hall tonight. Andrea, how alarming are these numbers?
Well, Janelle, the new data is definitely trending in a new direction for Billings crime stats. And probably the most notable thing to happen in 2020 is an increase in murder cases. And this is especially hard for a city already plagued with violent crimes.
U.S. cities are seeing a surge in violent crimes. The FBI even reporting within the first 6 months of the pandemic, murders were up 15%. Compare that, though, to a city the size of Billings with 16 murders from January to November.
On average, Billings is usually, maybe 2 or 3 homicides. In some other spike years, we've been up to like 7, 8, or 9. We can't remember a year in the past that we've had 16 homicides.
And that's not all. Domestic violence was up 25%, assault on police officers up 50%, and assault with a weapon up 50% since the year before. Woolley says while they can't pinpoint for sure the reason for the increase, the pandemic has surely forced stressors on the public.
They're spending more time at home with partners. It's more likely to manifest into violence in the household.
But Billings has been dealing with an increase in violent crimes for years.
It's kind of like adding some gasoline to the fire. We've already been on an increase for violent crimes. We already have a significant drug problem like we've discussed in the past. And now we add this on top of it and it just magnifies.
And in turn, officers' hands are tied because through the pandemic, there's still been a constant issue of overcrowding at the jails.
The officers often feel like they're just pushing the problem around. We don't have any tools to deal with what's going on. We're only able to incarcerate high-level felony offenses.
While all but one homicide case has been deemed clear, the detective unit is running thin, something law enforcement hopes the public will think about.
The acuity of these violent crimes, the shootings, the homicides, those take up a substantial amount of more resources and time and effort by our staff. But this year has definitely been a spike abnormal to previous years.
So a few different things that Billings Police is hoping will happen as we look ahead into 2021. Of course, they're hoping that with the introduction of vaccines, that will slow down the pandemic. Also, we've been in a really hotly contested political season. They're hoping that that will start to calm down. And lastly, they want designated beds inside the jail so that they can actually take prisoners there and keep them there. So Janelle, a few things that Billings Police is definitely looking forward to. Back to you.
All right, thanks so much. Andrea Lutz in downtown Billings tonight. Well, Montana's 25th governor promises a new way of doing business in Helena as Greg Gianforte and other statewide officials start their terms in office. MTN's Jonathan Ambarian takes us to today's ceremonies.
On Monday, Governor Greg Gianforte and Lieutenant Governor Kristen Juris were sworn in a small ceremony at the Montana State Capitol. There were no large crowds as a typical inauguration would have. Gianforte said it was important that this event changed, as so many others during COVID-19 have had to.
Montanans have had to make sacrifices and do things differently. You've had to change how you celebrate holidays, scale down wedding ceremonies, and postponed many of your long awaited plans. This inauguration ceremony is no different.
He praised first responders, healthcare workers, and others who've stepped up during the pandemic, and promised to lead a comeback from COVID and the economic devastation that accompanied it.
I am confident that with vaccines and increased testing, we will get a better handle on our response to COVID-19. I am confident that our economy will rebound. I am confident Montanans will get back to work in good-paying jobs.
Gianforte is Montana's first Republican governor in 16 years. He said he wants to take the state on a new course, focusing on economic growth and a more responsive government. He vowed to work with people across the political spectrum to serve the state. 4 other statewide officials were sworn in Monday. The first was Attorney General Austin Knudsen, who vowed to make the Department of Justice more efficient and focus on prosecuting crime, particularly involving drugs.
I know how much small town in rural Montana can benefit from a little extra help from the AG's office. The Attorney General's office can and must work better for the people of the state.
Also sworn in Monday were Secretary of State Christy Jacobson, State Auditor Troy Downing, and the only official starting a second term, Superintendent of Public Instruction Elsie Arnson. Those statewide offices had already been in Republican hands. Gianforte's victory gives the party all 5 seats on Montana's land board. In Helena, Jonathan Amberian, MTN News.
Thanks, Jonathan. Now, Montana's 2021 legislature also got underway at the state capitol, and despite the pandemic, most lawmakers did show up in person for the swearing-in proceedings. And as MTN's chief political reporter Mike Dennison tells us, the first day, which is largely ceremonial, was not without its moments of division.
While at least some of the session's proceedings will be done remotely or carried out with social distancing at the Capitol, that was mostly not the case on Monday. All but a few of the 100 House members crammed into their chamber for swearing in and electing their leaders for the session. Democratic members wore face masks, but most Republicans did not. In the Senate, however, about half of minority Democrats took part via Zoom from remote locations. Republicans have huge majorities at the 2021 session, 67-33 in the House and 31-19 in the Senate. Republicans said Monday they have a mandate from voters to enact new Republican Governor Greg Gianforte's agenda for business-friendly policies and less government. But they also said they want to ensure the session is conducted safely.
It is my priority to ensure a safe and healthy working environment for all in the Capitol building this session. That includes virtual participation for legislators and constituents. This will be the most accessible legislative session in history.
And Democrats said they're ready to be part of the discussion as well.
Our caucus is ready to build on our investment in infrastructure, to protect our gains and access to health care, and to make sure that we're investing in public education. These are things that Montana families need to thrive and survive across the state, and we hope that you'll join us.
Outside the Capitol, some Helena residents picketed to protest Republicans' refusal to enact stricter health guidelines at the session, including the wearing of masks. And a pro-Trump contingent also rallied in front of the building, where some attendees criticized moderate Republicans for undermining conservative policies. But back inside the Capitol, conservatives lost one of their first skirmishes on the House floor. They tried to impose a set of temporary House rules, which they said would give conservative Republican leadership a clear hand to enact the will of the voters.
I, for one, do not want to face the people back home who told me, please do as we asked you. Please enforce rules that are going to free up the people in the state of Montana and allow them to exercise personal responsibility and personal freedoms which have been denied to them in the last 10 months.
That move failed on a 42-58 vote, with 25 Republicans joining all 33 House Democrats to defeat it. That means conservative and moderate Republicans must work out a set of rules they can agree on as the session gets started this week. The rest of this week is mostly organizational meetings, with committees figuring out the technological landscape for remote testimony and other social distancing steps. But on Thursday, Governor Greg Gianforte presents his proposed changes to the state budget, and work on that budget and other issues will begin in earnest. At the Capitol, Mike Dennison, MTN News.
Thanks, Mike. And the session is scheduled to continue through April. Well, as Montana lawmakers meet, COVID-related illness is tied to another 11 deaths across the state. 3 of those victims are reported here in Yellowstone County. Bighorn County also reports its 64th victim today. The statewide total has now reached 1,019. Now, although Yellowstone County leads those numbers with a total of 165 deaths, as we head into the new year, data shows new positive cases are trending down. In the past 3 weeks, cases have dropped from about 1,000 new cases per week to less than 400. But officials warn we should know in the next few week or so how the virus spread during the holidays. Well, here in Billings, a big community donation will help more nursing students graduate with no debt. This past summer, St. John's United welcomed its first 5 nurse apprentices. In tonight's Rebound story, Q2's Mitch Laggy tells us how that program is now expanding.
In June last year, St. John's United Long-Term Care Facility in Billings signed on its first 5 apprentices to the Nursing Fellowship Program. The students joined a field that is expected to increase in demand in future years, with Montana ranking among the top 10 states for percentage of people aged 65 or older.
We have an increasing need for healthcare professionals all across Montana, and we wanted to consider a way that we might do our part to help contribute to providing for healthcare professionals who are willing and able to serve.
In 2021, the Nursing Fellowship was able to expand and welcome 5 additional students who get a pretty sweet deal on their education. Along with no student debt upon graduation, the nurses don't have any obligation to stay with St. John's unless they choose. The deal is an easy sell for the Human Resources Department at St. John's.
You know, retainment is a struggle, and then recruiting can be a struggle. So this program is great for definitely us here in HR as far as it's being a recruitment tool, and then you know, the promise or the hope of these students continuing through the 2 to 4 year degree. It's a great retainment as well.
The Nursing Fellowship was started with an initial $1 million grant from the Bruno and Evelyn Betty Foundation of Lacey, Washington. The foundation also gave a challenge donation of $500,000, which other donors matched for an additional $1 million going to the fellowship. And the program got some help from a local source, Stockman Bank, which gave another challenge donation that the community matched for a total of $110,000. With that money, Schlotterback said the goal is to enroll a new cohort of 5 students per year for years to come.
They're helping not only the foundation get this program off the ground, but I would also add that they really are helping to develop healthcare professionals for the future, which is a benefit to all the residents of our great state of Montana.
Applications are now open to enroll in the 2021 Nurse Fellowship Program. To find more information, visit this story on KTVQ.com. Reporting in Billings, Mitch Laggy, MTN News.
Thanks, Mitch. And applications for that nursing student cohort are open until February 1st. Well, up next on tonight's MTN 530 News right here on Q2, lighting up the sky. The Montana Learning Center catches a fireball as it streaks across the Montana sky. We'll show you. And in sports, basketball is back in the Magic City. Rocky men and women in action on the hardwood tonight, and Scott gets us ready in just a bit.
49 was the official high at the airport today, although I expect a lot of people saw 50+ degrees across the area. Even the winds took a little bit of a break, but changes, we'll tell you about that coming up.